You just press play on the Last Breath Hunt cast, home of the Hunterversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. What's up, everyone? Welcome to a bonus episode of the Last Breath Hunt cast, home of the Hunterversy. Today, my guest is going to be Matt Bartlett. You guys all know him. Most of you love him. He is one of the best shed antler hunters that I know in our area, and we're going to pick his brain about what makes him tick when it comes to finding a pile of sheds every year. And like I said, this is a bonus episode. The reason that this is a bonus episode is because we've got a lot of big announcements and things coming down the pipe over the course of the next couple weeks, and we felt like we were just getting buried with things that we needed to tell you. So I wanted this episode to do that and accomplish that goal, and as well be highly educational and talking to Matt, because like I said, for somebody that's a little younger than 30, he's found more sheds than anybody I know locally other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dana Pace. And so hopefully we'll have him in here to talk in the next couple of weeks, and that can be actually really entertaining and engaging as well. And he can tell us all of his tips, tricks, tactics to finding more antlers too. So this is a reminder that you guys can listen to the Last Breath Hunt cast, this podcast that you're listening to right now. Each Monday, we have a new episode that rolls out at 6 a.m. on Libsyn, Spotify, iTunes, etc. Or you guys can watch it on Monday evenings on YouTube. So if you guys could go to YouTube and check us out on there, that would be really doing us a solid. And our partner podcast, which is called the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, you guys can listen to that every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And like I said again, that is called the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. Biggest announcement of the episode right now in the front. Sorry if I butcher this. This is actually my first time doing this. But our podcast is presented by Badlands Gear. We wanted to express how grateful that we were to be working with Badlands Gear. They're growing big time in the whitetail sector, and for good reason. We've been working with them for about 3 years now, and we're glad that they stepped up and took the title sponsorship slot of our show here. So huge shout out to Badlands for making a phenomenal product. Huge shout out to them for keeping us warm when it's cold, which is especially something that's on our minds right now as we go coyote hunting, and keeping us concealed throughout the deer season and the turkey season. So look for big things coming with Badlands in the future, and you can check those guys out at badlandsgear.com. Underwarmer. This podcast is also brought to you by Underwarmer. So they're a new product to the hunting industry. They've been out in the world, out in the business world for a long time, but they're trying to penetrate the hunting industry currently, and they wanted our help. So Underwarmer, is a heated base layer system that you guys can wear next to your skin or over a garment. So they actually sent me a few prototypes, and 2 weekends ago, my friend Austin and I went coyote hunting, and when we made our first stand, it was 1 degree out, the first one in the morning there. The day before that, when I was also wearing the Underwarmer system, I went ice fishing with my dad, and on that particular day, the high was 8 degrees. So I've taken it out, and it's been not just cold, but extremely cold both times that I've worn it. And the cool thing about it is, and I was skeptical when I first opened it, I was like, man, is this really going to keep me that warm? Is it going to be too warm that it's going to burn my skin? And the answer was no. So my first time taking it out, I used it while ice fishing, and I wore it over a t-shirt just because I was skeptical of that, and it kept me nice and warm that entire day with just wearing my Carhartt bibs and Carhartt jacket, which are warm by themselves, but it kept my midsection nice and toasty. And the following day when Austin and I went hunting, I wore it next to my skin. And I wore it with pretty minimal base layers on, and like I said, it was about 0 degrees that day when we went out, and it kept me warm pretty much the whole time. So if you'd like to check Underwarmer out, go hit them up at underwarmer.com. Like I said, a pretty cool product. So our topic of our episode today, like I told you guys at the beginning, is going to be where to find more shed antlers this season with Matt. And like I said, there's so many projects that we're working on right now. I wanted to let you guys know about all of them. So our first project before we call Matt that we've been working on for about the last month is called Shed Kings. And that is launching this Thursday, February 18th. So 4 days after this podcast, which you're listening to now, airs, this coming Thursday on our YouTube channel, we're running a giveaway on episode 1. So in episode 1, we're going to check out a 200-inch deer that Garrett found one of the antlers off of several years ago with Jesse. And all you guys need to do to be entered in the giveaway that we're running on that series is drop us a comment in the video when it goes live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday, again, this Thursday, February 18th, and comment using the keyword shed. Shed can be anywhere in the comment, and you're entered to win, S-H-E-D, as in white-tailed deer antler shed. And if you guys could drop a comment in the section below, that would really help us grow and accomplish our goals for the 2021 year quicker. So that would be awesome. That's our first project. And basically what Shed Kings is a really diagnostic approach to figuring out where expert shed hunters are finding all their deer antlers. Where are they finding the biggest ones in an effort to say, all right, if the biggest deer on the farm, if the biggest deer in the area are bedding in this location, XYZ, how can we find them year after year? How can we get a beat on them for the following season, knowing things about where we found those antlers and where those deer are living during the late season? So those will be coming on our YouTube channel and dropping very frequently, starting on the 18th, which again is this Thursday. So if you want to be entered to win a cottontail distress call, my favorite personal call to use for coyotes during the midday, just drop us a comment on that video when it airs at 7 using the keyword shed. Our second project that we've been working on, so Garrett and I had this conversation, it would have been about 3 weeks ago, and we just thought there was not a lot of coyote hunting resources. There's 3 or 4 YouTube channels out there that do a really phenomenal job of dropping a ton of coyotes, but there's really not a lot of tactic talk when it comes to how to kill coyotes more frequently, how to call in more coyotes, how to hunt coyotes at night, how to hunt coyotes with dogs, what gear coyote hunters that are targeting extremely large populations of coyotes using. Are they using semi-automatic rifles? They're using bolt-action rifles. What kind of thermal optics are they running? Are they running decoys? What kind of camo are they running when it's snowy versus non? And we wanted to know all that. And so Garrett and I thought it'd be a great idea to come up with an entire series. So we looked at 5 different coyote hunting experts from all over the country, and we consolidated them all into a list. We got in touch with them, and we're in the process of recording all of those podcasts right now. So when we start dropping them, they're going to be back to back to back to back to back, all 5 days in a row. So we're going to be asking questions like, where do you hunt the majority of your coyotes? What weapons do you use? What calls do you use? Hand calls, electronic calls. Are they legal in your state? Do you use a decoy? What kind of camo do you run? And all of the things that we believe are going to be really pertinent pieces of information to look into to killing more coyotes. So that's our Coyote Expert Project. And like I said, when those podcasts start dropping, they're going to go every single day for 5 days in a row. So make sure you hit us up on social so that way you know when those start. But that's going to be really awesome. That's my personal favorite thing to hunt, and that's going to be really educational as well. So some of the noteworthy guests that we have lined up, by popular demand, we asked our Inner Circle, which is our Facebook group that we had, who are the top dog coyote hunters that you know of. Many of these guys came multiple time recommendations. So we have our first coyote expert that came. His name is Ozzie Clements, and he is revered in central Illinois and west central Illinois, where he's from, as just a coyote killing machine. He hunts exclusively at night, and he also really loves to hand fish. So that's going to be our first expert. Chris Creaner, he's actually the host of Great Outdoor Pursuits, and he's a coveted Michigan predator hunter, and he actually works for Pulsar Optics. So Pulsar Optics, they're a thermal optic that you can use at night. Just a really cool tool to have when you're calling coyotes, and he also has killed in the triple and quadruple digits coyotes. All these guys, they don't just go out and kill 2 or 3 of them a year. They're killing hundreds a season. The third guest, his name is Scott White Buffalo. He's a South Dakota resident, and he's known for stacking coyotes with his hunting partner that he calls Mud, and he only hunts during the day. And he runs very specific equipment, and that was a very, very, very popular backed by demand guest. that we interviewed as well. John Collins, he is the host of Tooth and Claw TV. He hunts coyotes all over the United States and is known as one of the best predator hunters in today's spotlight. So those are 4 of them. The 5th one is a mystery. We will be sharing with you who the mystery man is on the 5th day, but it is arguably the biggest name in coyote hunting, and we're really excited to share that with you. So, like I said, the point of this episode was to call Matt and see where he finds the bulk of his shed antlers at. So we're going to go ahead and give Matt Bartlett a call right now and ask him a few simple questions, because sheds are on everyone's mind right now, as they should be. So here we go.
Hello.
Yo, you got me?
Yeah, sure do.
All right, you ready to rock and roll?
I guess.
Okay, well, my first question is pretty simple. Where do you find the majority of your sheds?
Oh, shit. Whoops. I bumped a gun into the wall. I find a majority of my sheds, honest to God, in waterways, grassy field edges, low spots, just more or less transition areas where deer are using to go from thick bedding cover to the food.
Okay. Of all of those, of all of those things that you just named, what's the hottest area of the 4 or 5 that you just named? Like, if you had to pick one to only exclusively go and shed hunt in that feature of terrain, which one would you pick?
I'd probably go grassy waterways in a field.
Sure. So for those of people that aren't maybe hunting agricultural ground, explain what a waterway is, because there may be a couple people that don't exactly know what you mean when you say that.
It's just a spot where the farmers choose not to plant in the middle of their field where water usually or typically would drain. It's starting to become less frequent around here. A lot of our farmers and ag guys are starting to phase out grassy waterways and just tile them. So if you can find a field that actually has one around here, usually if there's any kind of deer numbers around it, and there's some kind of food source around it, or it is in a food source, you'll typically find, at least I'll typically find at least one shed in it.
Sure.
There's been very many good waterways that I have personally shed hunted over the years that are in a stock field or of any kind that I haven't found a shed in, whether it be a little one, anything big.
Sure. My following question is, when do you deliberately, big emphasis on deliberately, I know that most deer hunters are after deer season, anytime when it ends, they're looking and it's on their mind, but what's the date that's like the tipping point for you when you're like, all right, I'm going to spend basically both days every weekend or after work or whenever I can walking around trying to find deer antlers? What's that date for you?
I don't know that it'd necessarily be a date. It's more or less conditions. They play a huge role in shed hunting, and right now we're covered up with about 3.5 inches of drifting snow, and it's currently snowing right now. Typically I haven't ran a lot of cameras this time of year until this year, and we have a couple mobiles out currently. And matter of fact, I put on our inner circle this morning, a big 6-year-old buck that we know pretty well is still carrying both of his sides. So usually I would say if I would start getting antsy and start walking some waterways where there's no deer living, middle of February, like right now. But given the weather conditions this year and the temperatures and whatnot, it's going to be at least 1 to even March, 1 to 2 more weeks before I really start going hard. We've got more snowfall coming this week, it looks like, too. So it's going to be a while yet. I would really like to get out, but if they're not dropping, there's really no sense in even getting out there and tromping around and risk giving them to somebody else.
Sure. What percentage of deer? I mean, we've all been running our mobile cams for a long time. I mean, for the last 3 years we've been running a mobile camera system, and you guys still have yours running. What percentage of bucks right now, and today is Valentine's Day, February 14th, what percentage of deer do you think are still holding on to both sides of their antlers as of right now?
Well, where our mobiles are, probably 90.
Really?
Oh yeah. The last camera pull we had was when we took them down last weekend. And there's typically on that property, there's a pretty fair deer density. And I'd say there's, 16 different bucks between 1.5 years to 5, 6, and even 7 years old. And as of, I think the second week or the first weekend of February, all of them still had both sides except one of the 4 to 5 year old bucks had lost one side. So I would say, and then we just actually got a picture of a shed buck 2 days ago on mobile, which was probably I would say a 2-year-old buck. So as far as I know, with what I've been seeing so far, almost everything's still carrying their horns.
Sure. What do you think? What do you think this extreme spell of cold? I mean, lots of people are big believers in the fact that deer, when they're more stressed, if they've been shot, if they've been wounded, if they suffered an injury or something like that, that they'll shed their antlers earlier. And obviously it's been so cold for so long in Illinois. This is our 15th-ish day that it's been like sub-0 degrees at night. It's bone-numbingly cold out. And so do you think that's having a factor in drop,
in some
or not?
areas where the deer don't have the nutrition and the cover, that's definitely playing a factor. I feel like, granted, as a whole across the state, I'd say probably, three quarters of the deer are still carrying, but at least in the areas where I hunt right now, they've got great cover, and they've got, quit doing that, Maverick, and they've got great food sources around. So they're really not all that stressed. Plus also, one of those last trail camera videos on the card pull we did when we pulled all our cameras down last weekend, like the 2nd of February, there's still 1.5-year-old bucks bumping fawns around. So I feel like there's still a few fawns in some of these areas where there's higher deer densities that haven't even been bred yet. So that's another big contributing factor to why some of these bucks are still carrying their headgears. They haven't got all the does bred.
Sure. What do you think, if you were to analyze all the things that you take with you while you go shed hunting, what do you think is the most underrated piece of gear for shed hunting? When you were, one more time?
Water.
That's fair.
I don't know how many times I've packed, binoculars, a book bag with camera and all that other stuff in. And the one thing that I typically always forget is something to drink.
How many ounces of water are you trying to drink out there do you go shed hunting all day when you and Jesse go?
At least something to quench your thirst. There's a lot of days where I'm putting, 10, 12, 14 miles, sometimes in a day, maybe even in, closer to 20 miles on a weekend. And, seems like all the time I'll, leave my Gatorade or drink or something in the truck, and you're out there for 4, 5, 6 hours walking straight, and you just completely just forget to take a drink with you.
Sure. So pro tip of the day, don't forget your liquids to
hydrate. I mean, I know for a fact there's been many a time, a lot of people might call me crazy, but if you can find a good little stream out there that's got clear water around, limestone or rock or anything like that, and you can see the bottom of it. I mean, I haven't been opposed to taking a couple swigs out of the creek if I get hard up for a drink.
Sure. I agree with you on that. I've taken a couple drinks out of some creeks in my time too, and nothing bad has happened yet. Haven't got hit with nasty diarrhea yet, but I don't know.
I haven't grown enough or haven't,
Yeah, maybe our days are numbered. Maybe we've just been getting lucky. How about a piece of advice, right? So somebody that is new to shed hunting for the first time ever, or just simply wants to find more deer antlers this year, what piece of advice would you give them in their quest to find more shed antlers? What would that piece of advice be?
The first initial piece of advice that I would offer anybody if they want to find some more antlers, it would be get in your truck and drive around, a car or whatever, drive around right now. These conditions are forcing the deer to be in huge herds. If you can find where they're feeding at, try to acquire permission where they're feeding at. That's a good place to start. 2 nights ago, I went on a drive and I saw 87 deer in 45 minutes.
Jeez.
So,
all on one property?
No, 2 or 3 different properties, but still there. I would say close to 40 of them were stacked up on 2 sides of a farm that I hunt.
Gosh, that's crazy. So, did you go ask permission on that particular place? And does that tactic pretty well work for you?
I already have permission to shed hunt where I saw all the deer, so
sweet.
No problems there. Just got to get out there and find them.
How much easier do you think it is for you guys to find shed hunting permission than it is for deer hunting permission? I know what Garrett and I's answer is, and it's just like turkeys with us. We've got about 20 spots we can turkey hunt on permission. 0 or 1 spots we can, I guess there's 1 spot technically we have on permission to deer hunt, but all the other ones are leased. And then, for shed hunting, we have another 5 or 6 spots that we have permission to go. And I just feel like for turkeys, coyotes, deer antlers, people are a lot more lax on permission. But would you say that it's, you shed hunt 2 or 3 times the amount of ground that you and Jesse have permission to deer hunt, or what's that number for you?
Oh, absolutely. It's night and day different. There's a lot of people that just really, truly don't care about sheds. So over the years, I've acquired permission to shed hunt a lot of properties that there are people that actually deer hunt, but they really don't care about sheds in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
So it's actually a lot easier, I guess, to acquire shed hunting permission for me as opposed to deer hunting permission. And I've even pulled the old sneaky tactic back in my younger years, get shed hunting permission where you knew there was a bunch of deer, and use the old, hey, can I go arrowhead hunting technique? Sometimes if you mention deer antlers, it really kind of throws people off. But if you if you want to get crazy with it, ask them if you can go arrowhead hunting in their field, and you might just happen upon a couple sheds while you're out there, and then they really can't do anything about it.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a interesting play there. I've never used that one.
Oh yeah, back in my younger years, if you really want to get in there and really want to get into a spot, and they might be a little weird about the word antler and deer, you got to get creative.
That's probably one of the funnier tips I feel like anybody will pick up from this. But moving on,
it's worked a lot, and
a lot more than you would think.
What can a person really do if you've got permission to walk a place and you happen across a shed? Or most people are gonna be like, oh well, cool. I don't know that I've ever ran into anybody that made me give a shed up that I found.
Sure. Well, that's an interesting tip that you just gave there. I don't know how to feel about that tip, but as long as you don't do it anymore, I feel like that's probably good.
Yeah. Hey, permission is permission.
Permission is permission, though. What about your biggest set of antlers? I've seen them before. They're huge. Where did you find your biggest set or just single-sided antler at? Where was that at?
My biggest set is a 170-inch pair of 8x5 sheds. I found them actually on our little 19-acre lease about 4 miles from my house. I just found them in the grassy transition area on the bottom, about 125 yards apart. Big deer just happened to be meandering through there, probably in search of food, and he just happened to stumble across them, and never did have enough catching up with him, but at least I got a shed.
Yeah, absolutely. What about your, if you're just thinking exclusively about your biggest deer antlers, what percentage of those do you think are within 200 yards of food, if you had to put a number on that? And I'm talking your deer that you believe are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 years old. What percentage of those are within 200 yards of food?
Oh, most oftentimes they're all probably within 200 or 300 yards of food.
So you would say 80,
I don't think
90% maybe?
I would say 80 is a fair number.
Okay.
80 is a fair 80% is a fair number.
How many sheds have
Hang
you
on.
found? How many sheds have you found all time?
My toddler's extremely pissed. Hang on. Hey, I'm sorry, but you can't be tearing up your toys. Sorry, trying to be a parent. What'd you say?
I said what percentage whoops, sorry, I lost my spot here. How many sheds do you think you found all time?
Oof. Over 250, I would say I found over the last couple decades.
All right. So
I had where I found 62, and I didn't really have much going on that spring, and I just walked in a lot of areas. I hit 3, 4, 5 times. You know, about once a week, I'd circle back through and pick up a straggler.
So 62 different shed antlers.
Yep, 62 different ones, and I, like I said, I circle spots back, and that year I ended up walking clear up until, you know, the first week of April. You know, I was still finding sheds. So
that is an absolute ton of antlers.
Don't just think March is over. You know, it's time to switch over, which most oftentimes a lot of people get geared up for turkeys about that time. But there are still them straggler sheds and bucks that are still carrying clear into April.
Yeah, well, remember that turkey that you and Molly killed together? It would have been about 4 years ago. It was like during second or third season shoot. I mean, you guys videotaped
but still, it was youth season, but it was still in the first 10 days of April. I videoed 4 or 5 different bucks that still were carrying.
Yeah, both sides. That was crazy.
And I never even went in there to look for their sheds either. I got sidetracked and never went in there and took a peek. I wish I would have.
Sure. All right, well, I'm going to let you go now. We're going to talk more in the coming weeks on shed hunting tactics, and things like that. But we're going to round it out in a nice, short, and sweet one. Let you get back to hanging out with Maverick on Valentine's Day. And yeah, thanks for letting me buzz you, pick your brain for just a second, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, buddy.
All right, bye. Well, like I said, this episode designed to be slightly educational, on the shorter side, and kind of lay out all the plans that we have for the next several weeks. Again, Shed Kings, first episode launching this Thursday, February 18th. It's an absolutely awesome series. Really looking forward to sharing that with you. It drops on 7 p.m. on Thursday on our YouTube channel. So again, if you'd like to be entered in the Coyote Call giveaway, just drop a comment with the keyword SHED, S-H-E-D, in it, and I'll pick a winner and get that call sent your way ASAP so you guys can start whacking down some more coyotes. And then our Coyote Project, again, we've got 5 coyote experts in the hopper, and we're going to be dropping those episodes as soon as we record the 5th one. We currently have 3 recorded now, and as soon as we get those 4th and 5th ones on the line, we're going to drop them back to back to back to back to back. So that's it for us today. Just a reminder that you can listen to a new episode of our podcast every Monday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. If you want any of our codes that we have through any of our partners, whether it be for trail cameras, knives, camo, etc., those are in the Last Breath Inner Circle, which is our Facebook group. We have a ton of new stuff that we're going to be pumping out down the pipeline into that group over the next couple weeks. So everybody that's in there, huge thank you from us. You guys have been nothing but supportive, kind, and friends to us, to our brand, and what we do and the work that we put in. So we wanted to really thank you for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Last Breath Huntcast this week. Every Wednesday, you guys can catch a new episode of Last Breath Live on our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. We got some coyote hunting and some shed hunting stuff coming down the pipeline for you guys. Thank you again for listening to our Huntcast. We'll see you again really soon when we start dropping our coyote podcasts, all 5 in a row, with experts from Maine to California. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Don't waste it.